This episode was made possible through the generosity of our supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to see videos and hear podcasts before everyone else, become a supporter of Liz Zorab on Patreon to support our work here at Byther Farm.
Welcome back to the Byther Farm Podcast, and this week I have with me a wonderful gardener, a wonderful garden writer and author. It's Rob Smith. Rob, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're very welcome. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah, good. Cold?
It is cold. So we're recording this in the middle of January, and we're going through a seriously nippy spell, a cold snap.
Yeah, I think I had to snap the dog off a lamppost this morning. It was that cold.
It was, yes. It has been. I'm not going to say unfamiliarly cold or unusually cold, because we do get cold spells like this every year. But every year, I'm always taken by surprise.
Yeah, it always catches you out, doesn't it? Yeah, it always catches you out. And you wake up in the morning and you think, is that snow? And it's not. It's actually just a really hard frost. And it's freezing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So have you had any snow this year?
No, well, a tiny bit. I wouldn't class it as snow. I think the weathermen would have made a big deal of it, saying that, oh, we were snowed in and everything. It's about a millimetre, to be honest. It was one of those where you can't tell if it's snow or frost.
So last night as we were going to bed, we checked the weather forecast and it said 0.4 of a millimetre of snow.
Exactly.
And I thought, actually, are snowflakes that small? I mean, how are they going to land and stretch out really flat?
Well, I was saying the other day, I put something on Instagram the other day because it was so warm. And I'd said, you know what, we need a good cold spell because I want some of these pests in the garden to get knocked out so I've not got them next year. And then the next day it did this, and a lady put a message going, yeah, be careful what you wish for. Never happy.
So for people who don't know you, because there will be people listening from all over the world, Rob, do you want to tell or to remind me and tell everybody else a little bit about who you are in terms of being a gardener and where they can find what you're doing, and just a little potted history?
Yeah, do you want me to start off from the beginning?
Wherever you want to start, yes.
Yeah. Basically, I've always been into gardening. Always been into growing my own, because I used to spend a lot of time when my mum and dad were working with my grandparents. Mm-hmm. And my granddad used to have, these old council houses with the huge gardens at the back.
Yes.
And that was all like vegetables, with a rickety old greenhouse, a dolly tub full of water, a little shed and everything. Absolutely like perfect. And he used to do that, and my grandma used to do the flowers. She used to have climbing roses up the side of the house and all the stuff like that. So I used to spend a lot of time with them. And he had a brick-built shed that I used to be amazed by, because back then you'd go in and he'd have shelves and like strings with little paper bags folded up on them, brown paper bags.
Yep.
And I always used to think they were sweets, because we used to go and get a 10p mix when you were a kid. But he used to pull them down and open them up, and they were all his seeds. So he used to save his own seeds, and they were hung up. So that the mice couldn't get to them. And I was amazed by the fact, I always remember it was beetroot, and I always remember the beetroot seeds thinking, how is that stone going to grow into a beetroot? Because they just do look like little pebbles, almost like bits of grit. And as a kid, it was amazing. So he started me off with that by giving me the seeds and getting me to sow and helping him in the garden. Basically, slave labour, which you get reported for now, but back then it was called experience. So yeah, he used to get me to do that. And then my mum and dad gave me a tiny bit of land down the side of the house. Basically, down the side of the house, there's a path, and there's a bit of strip of land down the side of there. And we are talking a metre wide. Yeah. It was probably a metre wide and 2 meters long. And they let me plant anything there because no one could see it. So I was growing every meal for about, must have been 6 months. We had radishes because they were the quickest thing to grow. And as a kid, it was like, give him radish. That started me off. Then I went to university.
Do you still eat radishes?
I love radishes.
Oh, well,
I absolutely love radishes. Yeah, they didn't put me off. It wasn't like the tequila that I had when I was about 18. That put me off for life.
Oh, we all had one of those. Yeah, mine was vodka.
Oh, yeah, no tequila. So, yeah, did that. Then went to university and basically the only thing I grew there were chilies. So we had a communal kitchen, and I just grew a few tiny little chili plants on the windowsill. And when you're at university, you've got other things on your mind than growing. It's just
What
one of
did you
those things you
study
did
at
as a kid.
university?
I did law.
Okay.
So I went to do law, a bit different to what I do now. So yeah, so did that, and then left there, decided it wasn't for me. After about a year and a half, really didn't enjoy it. And at the time, my auntie sister-in-law was working for Virgin Atlantic, flying up from Manchester, and she said, "We're looking for people to fly." So I thought, well, do you know what? I've left university. I don't know what I want to do. I'll go and do that for 6 months, see the world, get paid for going on holiday, as you imagine it to be. So did that for 20 years. But in the meantime, I'd moved back from down south up to Sheffield, and I'd got a flat, and it's a first floor flat. So obviously I'd got no growing space.
Yeah.
And it got to a phase where if you've always grown and then you're not able to, it's like this itch that you can't scratch.
Yes.
And it got so overwhelming. It was making me like just depressed that I couldn't do anything. Yeah. So in the end, I thought, you know what? It was back when River Cottage had just come out, you know, with Hugh Feather-Whittingstall.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll get an allotment. So back then, oh my God, I could have got about 10 allotments like on the day, whereas now there's a waiting list. And I remember going down to the allotment sites with the local councillor, and it was just almost like a field. All the allotments, half of them were used and the bottom half weren't. So to keep them under control, they'd let the farmer use it for planting potatoes on so it didn't get overrun. So they carved me off a bit, used a 6-foot cane and carved me off a bit of this land, put a string down it, and he went, "There you go, it's yours." And I was like, shit, what do I do now? Do you know what I mean? He's just taken all the potatoes out of it. It looks like a mud pit. It's raining. I don't even own a fork or a spade. What do I do? So that started, and unfortunately it's not here anymore. But Wilco's, the allotmenteer's best friend, did me really well for all of my spades and everything until they like wore out basically. And then got my second allotment, got my polytunnel. And then I was away one day in LA with work, and I'd had a few gin and tonics, shall we say, and I was online, and the thing came up on Twitter saying, "Do you grow your own veg? Do you cook with it? Do you preserve with it? Do you do flower arranging?" And I thought, wow, if flower arranging is bunging a few daffodils in a jam jar and shoving them on the kitchen table because they're growing down the side of the allotment, yes, I do. And I used to make jams and chutneys and all the rest of it, and different like spirits infused with fruits and stuff from the allotment. I used to love all that. So I applied, a little pie-eyed, shall we say, worse for wear. And then the next morning woke up and there was an email going, "Oh yeah, blah, 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 we'd love you to come down." And I thought this was like an interview thing for a magazine. And it wasn't, it was for a TV program through this agency. And that was the Big Allotment Challenge on BBC Two. So basically did that, thought, oh God, what am I going to do? Went down to London. It was amazing. Went down. It was just by the British Museum. So I had a day out in London and went to this interview. And I was there with a few other people at the time, probably about 15 others. And they went through some questions, just basic things like, what's the main problem for broad beans and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, black fly, blah, blah, blah. Talk about it. And I said, "Can I ask why you're asking me this before we've gone in?" And she said, "Because you'd be so surprised how many people just want to be on TV and know nothing about gardening. So we have to whittle them out before they go through."
That's really
so
nice.
We went, to make actually sure it's not just somebody who's been on like 10 other programs and just wants to be famous on TV. So they got me to take down photos of the allotment and stuff like that. And things that I'd made, so raspberry jam and all these bits and bobs. And they went through loads of different vegetables and how do you grow it, what do you do, what are the problems, what are the benefits, what can you use them for? So all that type of stuff with this horticultural advisor, Louise, who was really lovely. And then they tasted all the jams and everything. And then you're doing all this with a microphone on. So if you've never been on TV or anything like that, it's really weird to have this microphone on and you're almost like trying to think about what you're saying before you do it. And then they said, "Right, we want you to do the flower arranging." I thought, oh, bollocks, I've got no chance at this. So but you can't say because you've got the microphone on. I'm thinking I can't even like do a slide burp under my breath or anything because they're going to hear everything. So went into this room, and they brought out the camera, and the camera's pointing at you, and they're like, right, okay, you've got 5 minutes, go. Started a stopwatch. That was it. And I'm like, so I looked for the biggest thing that looked like a jam jar, looked for the biggest things that looked like daffodils, rammed them in with a bit of twine round them, and they're going, just stop. Can you tell us what you're doing? I'm like, well, no, because I'm doing it. And she went, no, you've got to do it. You've got to think about what you're doing, do it, and tell us what you're doing. Otherwise it's going to be quite a boring TV program, Rob, because you're not telling us. So that was an experience, and thought, oh, do you know what? I've got no chance. Came out thinking, well, it was a good experience. It was a nice day out in London for someone from up in Yorkshire. They paid for it. Well done, Rob. You've had a day out for free. And they said, yeah, you'll hear from us in a few weeks. And I thought, oh, that's a no. So got on the train on the way back, and the phone rang, and they said, basically, they'd whittled however many, I think it was about 500 people. They whittled it down to 14 that they'd got for the show, and 9 would go on TV. So they got 5 like standbys in case anyone dropped out. And they said, we've whittled you down to the 14. Can we have another interview? And I was like, yeah, fine. Had another one, and they said, yeah, we want you as one of the 9.
Fantastic.
So can you come down to London next week? I was like, no, I'm in New York. Can you come the day after? I was like, well, actually, I think I'm going to San Francisco the day after I get back. And she was like, oh my God. So so work were really good. They gave me the set time off, and I worked in between, which was really good. Did that, absolutely loved that. Really, really enjoyed it. And then it sort of like went from there. I won that back in,
but go back,
10 years
say
ago
that
nearly
again.
now.
Just say that really loudly. I won that.
Oh yeah, I won that. Which was amazing when you think about it, when like you've gone down from however many hundred to the ones on TV, and then you've done everything, and it was absolutely amazing. Brilliant experience. Really,
so
really
you
good.
made some good friends on that.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Are you still in touch
probably
with
know
any of
Rekka.
them? Yeah,
Rekka. Yeah, Rekka. I know Tony works for it's Kitchen Garden magazine and everything now. So yeah, I keep in contact with a few of them still.
That's really nice, isn't it?
It is lovely. Yeah, it is lovely. But yeah, that happened. And then basically I was at there was a show down in London that what's it called? Not Garden Media Guild, the other one.
Garden Press event, yeah.
And it used to be at the another place, not the one it is now. And I remember going down, chatting to this guy, and didn't have a clue who he was. I was just down there like amazed by everyone because I'd never been in the industry. Just chatting to this guy, and he said, "Oh, would you be interested in like working with us?" I said, yeah, fine, whatever. Just give me a card. And he was the owner of Sutton Seeds. Didn't have a clue who he was.
Fantastic.
So started working with them 10 years ago, and then ended up being quite fortuitous because Virgin offered my rank voluntary redundancy, which allowed me to buy the house and garden we're in now, put a deposit down on that to actually have a nice bit of land, which really worked. And then, I've been working with Suttons and a few other brands for the last, 9 years now, whatever it is.
Fantastic. So when I first met you was at one of those events, at that press event in 2020, which is the first one I went to. And it was...
Oh, was it the one just after COVID?
No, just before COVID. So it was like
was it the before
immediately. And we were all kind of walking around going, do we shake hands? Do we not shake hands?
Oh, yes, I remember. And everyone was like,
we weren't quite sure we do elbows. What, how close do we get or not? None of us kind of knew what was happening. We just knew there was stuff happening like in China, and it was spreading, and maybe it had got as far as Italy, and we were going,
and it started snowing, didn't it? It was really snowing that time, wasn't it? And people were worried about getting home on the train.
I left really early because it's like I'm never going to get home to Wales otherwise. So I met you there, and it that was really lovely. And I've met you, I've bumped into a few other do's since then.
I think you'll find we were actually having drinks a few months ago in a pub in London.
Very long ago, was it? So we both go to the Garden Media Guild Awards each year, which is an absolutely amazing event, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good. It's so nice to be surrounded by so many people that just love gardening.
Yes.
It must be for anyone who doesn't. It must be the weirdest thing to walk into that room and just think, "What are they on about?"
Not only what are they on about, but like everybody seems to know everybody.
Yeah,
I kind of went and
good.
spoke to people and to say congratulations for winning their award today. Oh, Liz, thank you so much. And I walked away thinking, how do they know who I am? I was.
Yeah, the power of social media.
Yeah, is amazing, isn't it?
it?
So you mentioned that you're on Instagram. Your Instagram account is beautiful, by the way, to look at.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful colours, so much absolutely beautiful veg. Beautiful veg. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and like a quick fire, but not really, go with it as much as you want to. Ornamentals or productive? Which is your first love?
Productive.
Productive. So
definitely. I think you've got to. Yeah, if you can't eat it, it's nice to look at, but what's the point wasting your time on it?
Yep. Oh, I get that. Yes. I have my first love was ornamentals. And then
was it?
It was, yes. So I was an ornamental gardener for about 35 years. I might be a bit older than you, Rob. and then and then have been moved slowly over to productive gardening, but still put masses and masses of ornamental stuff in my productive garden.
I must admit, I do put a lot in the borders. So because my garden is tiered, because it's on quite a big slope, it's got 3 big tiers, but the banks in between, apart from artichokes and things, which I eat a few of, but they are quite ornamental. I do like to put a lot of flowering plants there, just to increase like biodiversity and bring the bugs in. To be honest, it's not like it's one of these old-fashioned allotments where in the winter it's just wiped clean and it's brown for 3 months and nothing happens. There are definitely ornamentals there. Because it's my back garden, I want it to look nice. I want to look out the house and it to look nice. I don't want it to look like a barren field. But yeah, my first love is definitely you've got to be able to eat it. Yeah, for it's a bit. It's nice to be in the garden if it looks nice, but to earn a place, you've got to be able to eat it.
So I've had a good nose around your website, and it very much reflects that whole in really enjoying what you grow. It just oozes, I'm enjoying this and I want you to enjoy it as well. So it's when you visit your website, it's really exciting just to kind of feel you become even more immersed in Rob's world of veg.
Yeah.
Really
I you know what I do I just love it. Me, the best days are when it's nice and dry, not too sunny. The dogs are in the garden. You're pottering around. You've had a really productive day, and you walk in with armfuls or baskets full of stuff, and then you think, do you know what? I've grown all that from those tiny little pebbles that I used to see in my granddad's. I've grown that, and then you suddenly realise, oh crap, I've got to spend all day tomorrow processing all this, cleaning it, bottling it and freezing it.
Yeah, I did that halfway and you've got the other half to go.
Exactly.
So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, Rob, is that you have a book coming out and I have been lucky enough to see an advance copy of it.
What did you think?
Beautiful book.
Thank you.
I drew breath several times. I kind of went, oh, look at that photograph. It was just.
I know, aren't the photos amazing?
Photos are beautiful, and everything in it is your voice. So when I'm reading it, I can absolutely hear you saying the words, and I think that's so important in a book. So well done, because that's just such an achievement. So how long did that take you to write? Because it's a good book.
The writing side, about 3 months. Not solid, like on and off, but the photos were, because what I wanted to do is, when I was talking to the editor and everything, my editor, and when I met Sam, the photographer, I said, look, I want everything to be taken in the garden. I want everything to be stuff that I've grown, no matter what. If it looks bad, like the good, the bad, the ugly, because I don't want it to be Photoshop. I want it to all look the same. And I said, I want the photos to look like, when you see these beautiful books that have got all the flower arranging and the ornamentals, and they look stunning. I said, vegetables to me are that good looking, and I need them to look that good in the book.
Yeah.
And I think Sam pulled it off absolutely amazingly with how he's done the photos, and how the guys at Quadrille have done all the editing and everything else. And there are some things in there that aren't, say, the best that they could be. Like I remember when we took the photos of the cauliflowers, one of them looks like it's just not blown, but just going, because I was trying to get all those cauliflowers ready for a set day when the photographer's coming, and you're thinking, can he come 2 days earlier? No, he can't. And you're thinking, what do I do? Yeah. So it was having a photographer come like every month or every 3 weeks from March to October. So, and you had to get everything ready. So not only are you trying to do your work life, your personal life, the growing like I normally do. And normally, you know what it's like. You think, oh, that cauliflower's ready. We'll have cauliflower tonight. Yeah. So I was thinking, oh, that cauliflower's ready. Brilliant. Photographer's not coming for 3 days. Do you know? So you're thinking, the stress of that was absolutely unbelievable. I didn't think it.
And it was a difficult growing year last year, wasn't it?
It was really dry. Yeah, it was really dry, and it was like it was a cold to start with. Like I remember some of the tomatoes thinking they look all right, but they haven't got as much taste as they did last year. Just because they weren't getting the sun and it was a bit dull.
So you're in Sheffield, aren't you? And you're saying you had quite a dry year last year.
Dry to start off with, in the spring, just getting everything started. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was dry.
Oh no,
not Then we had that really hot spell.
Yeah.
Sort of June was a heat wave here. Was it very hot for you?
It was quite warm.
Yeah, things were going. They were not growing because they couldn't get any water. And then from July the 1st, it rained until the snow came this week. It has been.
Yeah, it has been. It's been a weird year. And we say that every year, though, don't we? Because the year before it was hot. The year before it might have rained for God knows how long. Or spring seems to have started in February and then suddenly stopped in April because it went down to -5 or something.
Do you think this is symptomatic of gardeners that we blame the weather for that year?
We're never happy, are we? But it still amazes me that you can grow. If you want to grow the same variety, you can grow the same variety and you can sow it the same day, look after it the same, and it's never the same. There's always something. There's always something, and it's the weather. It's nothing to do with our imperfections and the fact that we forgot to water it for 3 days in a row. Nothing to do with us at all.
So you've written your book. When's it out?
Yeah, comes out in the UK. It's out. I think it's 21st of March. In the US, 26th of March, and Australia is early April.
Nice.
So, yeah, it should be good. But I just wanted something that I've thought about it for a while, and I've always loved growing. I always love growing something a little bit different. I always think it's got to be familiar, but not the same. So if it's tomatoes, why does everybody want to grow standard salad size red tomatoes? Yeah. That's fine if you love them. Grow them, but just change one plant to something else. Change one to one with the anthocyanin in that tastes more umami, or the sweeter little tiny ones, or just something a little bit different. So that's what I tried to get over in the book. Yeah. That there are so many vegetables. If you grow from seed, there's so many varieties and different things to grow that you can't buy in the shops. You don't even see in the farm shops. Yeah. So you've got to grow it yourself. But that's where a lot of people struggle because they don't know the varieties. They don't know what they're looking for. And they don't know how to grow them. And that's what I wanted to try and get over there. So like when you
I was looking at one of them, and I looked at, you recommended 3 or 4 varieties. And I thought, I've actually haven't heard of any of those, because I always just go for kind of, I wouldn't say bog standard ones, but I go for ones that I grew 20 years ago. And so I just know what they are. So I grow them every year.
And that's absolutely fine. But it's like, if you grow 3, just grow 2 next year and grow 1 that's a bit different, because you'll be really surprised at what's out there and what's available.
Well, it's a bit like when all of a sudden Romanesque cauliflower were available in the shops, and everyone's going, it's an alien. What is it?
Yeah. I just find it bizarre. And there are things that we see almost like as as gardeners or allotmenteers or like veg growers that we always think are normal, but to be honest, how often now do you see things like runner beans in the shops? You might see a few of them. You don't see a lot like you used to. You see, like, if you grow your own veg and you grow courgettes, people always go, I'm only growing 5 plants. Is that enough? I'm like, what, for the street? Because they grow like weeds. But you go to the supermarket, they're charging like £2 or £3 for 3 tiny little courgettes.
Yeah.
And you just think it's almost become detached from what we can grow and what is normal to grow to what the supermarkets actually sell.
Yeah.
Because you don't see it there, you don't think you can grow it here.
Yeah.
And you can.
One of the things I grow an awful lot of is fruit, because it is so expensive in the stores.
Yeah.
So I grow a ridiculous number of raspberries, and I let my raspberry patch get far too big, and take over, because those are hugely expensive in the stores.
Yeah,
and
soft fruit.
And the last couple of years I've been growing peaches.
You having any success? Are you able to keep them covered though?
So I've got them in a polytunnel.
That's why, yeah.
And success doesn't really explain it. We got to the point where we went, I can't face another peach. We'd given it to all the neighbours, and they'd all gone, yeah, we don't need any more peaches this week. And I ended up making like a mango chutney, but instead of mango chutney, I made peach chutney, because we just had so many of them, and that was from 2 trees.
Yeah, because I've got a couple outside, and I try and cover them in polythene in the spring, and they still get a bit of like peach leaf curl, and they're all right. They're mini ones. They do okay, shall we say?
Yeah.
But I haven't got space in the greenhouse for them, so it's a case of, do I sacrifice something that stays in there all year and just crops them once, or do I try and play around with the other things that I'm always fiddling about with? I've got a pawpaw in there at the minute.
Oh, nice.
And I've even got one outside in the garden that's surviving, because until I looked into it, I didn't realize they grow wild in New York. So look how cold it gets in New York, and they love like a boggy stream or anywhere that's like really damp. So I've got a couple of those, and when they flower, they're amazing.
Make a note here. No, literally, because we have a very damp environment.
Well, that's why part of our garden is really damp, because we've got an underground stream that comes to the surface.
Yeah.
So I've planted quince and pawpaw there, and they love it. The quince, oh my God, I had to prop the tree up this year because it was going to destroy itself. It would produce so much fruit.
I know about quince, but there'll be people listening who don't know about quince. So do you want to share a little bit?
Quince is probably one of the most underrated fruits you could ever grow. Depending on which variety you go for, they can look round like an apple or pear-shaped like a pear, funnily enough. But they're normally yellow, and they almost have fuzzy skin, like fuzz on the leaf, on the leaf and on the fruit. And basically, they're like rocks. In this country, they're normally from Iran, Iraq, places like that, where they ripen on the tree and you can eat them. But in the UK and our climate, we don't have a long enough growing season, so they stay rock hard. You can't eat them. They're really astringent, and I'm not selling it very well at all. But as soon as you add heat or cook them, they become the most luscious, beautifully tasty. They go like this orangey, almost rosy, translucent flesh, which is so sweet and fragrant and delicious. If you cook with apples at all, if you want it to taste better, you put 1 quince in with anything you do with apple, and it will elevate whatever you're cooking to like, heavenly. And
I always think of the taste as almost perfumey. They're
it's
so
really fragrant, isn't it? And if you pick them, and I leave them in a bowl in the kitchen, and you come back in the house, and if the sun's been coming through the window, the house smells amazing. They're like this natural Glade plug-in type thing. They smell beautiful, but I use them now instead of making applesauce and canning it to go with pork and things like that. I actually make just quince sauce, and it's beautiful. Even for like in the morning, get a bowl of yogurt or porridge and put some of that on it. Absolutely stunning. So one of my favorite.
Next time we meet up, maybe like next month, if you've got a small jar, a small like little tiny sample.
Oh, I've got some jar. Yeah. The quince sauce is amazing. you can actually make it into, I can't say, is it membrillo as well? We call it Queen's cheese. So like you boil it up and it almost forms this paste that you see in Spain or France where they have it with the cheese, the brown like jelly. I made it for the first time this year. It's really long process, so I split it over 2 days, bubbling it away. And I must say, you need one of the the spatter guards for a frying pan to stop the fat going anywhere. I had to put one of those over the top because it was volcanic. I literally had to go and change my top and put long sleeves on because all you could hear was expletives coming from the kitchen as a bit bubbled onto my skin. And you're trying to wipe it off. Yeah, it's like molten quince. But yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Oh, nice. That sounds really nice. Do you grow or do you collect rose hips for making? Do you use rose hips in your kitchen?
No, do you know what? I don't, but I should, because at the very back of our garden, we have this huge wild rose that produces loads of them, and they're always dropping into the gutter of the greenhouse. And I've never, I think I did, I might have years ago. Are they the ones that taste a bit like coconut if you make them into syrups and stuff?
Well, very slightly. Yeah, maybe that's a bit. I just think it just has some sort of nondescript fruit-ish flavour. But I make rosehip syrup, rosehip wine, and I even make rosehip jelly.
Oh, do you? Is it what to go with, like with cheese or for meats, or how's it go?
Cheese and meats, on toast. I'll eat jellies with almost anything. So I use a lot of them. But I think it's another one of those things that so many people have in their gardens, and they're completely
and they just
underrated.
Don't know. It is quite scary about how many things there are like that. Because we've got on the boundary to the garden, we've got loads of elderflowers. Nice, and I make. Have you ever heard of Pontac? It's the sauce made with the fruit. It's absolutely brilliant. So basically, don't use all the elderflowers. Leave them to go into berries. Then fight with the blackbirds to get to them first. And then basically, what you do is in a low oven, just put a couple of chopped up shallots, spices like allspice and cloves and things like that, and all the berries, and then you cover them in vinegar. So I use apple cider vinegar, and you put them in a really, really low oven overnight. Then when it comes out, mash it with a potato masher, put it through a strainer to get this sauce, and you get this most darkest, almost jet black, but it's dark purple, luscious sauce. And you just leave it. You're supposed to leave it for 7 years. You got no chance. You can't even leave it for 7 months. And it forms this sauce that if you add it to gravies or soups or sauces, it's almost like a cross between Worcester sauce and HP sauce flavour. Really herby, but really deep. So anything to go with like gamey meats or darker meats or gravies, it's beautiful. And it lasts for years and years, and it's absolutely divine. Yeah, Pontac.
I am going to be giving that a go, very definitely, because we have plenty of elderberries here. I make a vast amount of elderberry wine. You'll see there's a theme. I make wine out of a lot of things.
Rosehip wine.
Okay,
Are you like?
I need to just add, I don't drink any of the wine. And
do you not?
No, but I cook with it. So I use wine to add flavour into cooking. So almost every meal has had wine put into it. The alcohol's cooked out, but we've got all those flavours.
So you're like Barbara off The Good Life when she used to do the Peapod. What was it, the Peapod Burgundy?
Oh, something like that. It was awful. What an awful idea. But elderberry wine ends up like a really good Merlot.
Oh, does it? Really dark and deep?
Really dark, really deep, really rich. So, yeah, very nice. So I'm told. Because I don't drink
you can taste it, but you don't get it. Yeah.
So I will taste it just to check it isn't off. But then actually, Mr. J, my husband, drinks wine. I don't. I just add it into everything.
If it did go off, couldn't you make it into your own elderberry vinegar?
Yes, there's a thought.
You could get some of the live apple cider vinegar, take a bit of mother out of it, and just drop it in, and there you go. A couple of months later, you've got your own
that
vinegar.
Would be nice.
That'd be lovely on salads and everything.
It would. I really like that.
Wouldn't it?
Right, Rob, we are absolutely running out of time with this chat. I would like to do this again so we can do another day of recipes from.
Should we do recipes and wine?
Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
And I will see you next month in London.
Next month. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Fab.
The podcast you've been listening to is a Byther Farm production. All rights reserved.